There exists a type of creature in the world. They have been discovered by a few people, but their existence has not been confirmed. We collectively refer to these creatures as unidentified mysterious animals, unconfirmed organisms, abbreviated as UMA. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UMA series. If we were to ask, which place in the world is most likely to harbor undiscovered large species? Undoubtedly, it would be our vast oceans. Sightings of sea monsters from around the world are countless, such as the sea serpent types we've talked about before, giant-headed species, and others. These fascinating stories and sighting records constantly spark human curiosity and exploration. And today, what I want to share with you is yet another strange and unique category of sea monster, the giant jellyfish. The giant jellyfish, as the name suggests, can be simply understood as a type of large, invertebrate plankton beyond human knowledge. This term itself is generally used to refer to the largest known species of jellyfish in the world, the lion's mane jellyfish, also known as the missing jellyfish. Its bell can reach a maximum diameter of around 2.5 meters. Its tentacles can reach a staggering 36 meters. However, the giant jellyfish referred to in this video may be several times larger than the lion's mane jellyfish, or even dozens of times larger. Imagine a massive underwater creature that preys on large fish and possesses highly toxic venom. What kind of image would that be? In 1957, British science fiction writer Eric Frank Russell compiled a series of challenging and inexplicable phenomena. He organized them into a book titled The Great World Mysteries. It was one of his few non-fiction works. In the book, there was a section dedicated to sea monsters. It mentioned a report from 1953 by an Australian diver named Christopher Lopp, who was working in the South Pacific. He reported an encounter with a giant sea monster. This is what the diver said: a 15-foot-long shark was circling around me, but it did not attempt to attack me. I kept wondering how deep it would dive. It stayed about 30 feet away, hovering roughly 20 feet above me. Then I approached an overhanging rock. It was a deep, unfathomable crevice. Diving further was dangerous. I stood there, gazing into the abyss below. The shark was waiting for my next move. Suddenly, the water became noticeably colder. As the temperature dropped rapidly, I saw a black object rising from the darkness of the abyss. It floated upward very slowly. When the light hit it for the last time, I could see it was a massive dark brown object. Its overall shape was flat, with jagged edges. I estimated it to be about 1 fathom wide. It moved slowly, pulsating. Even though I couldn't see its limbs or eyes, I knew it was a living creature. This terrifying shadow kept moving. As it drifted past my depth, the cold had become unbearably intense. I wasn't sure if it was due to the low temperature or sheer terror. The shark hung motionless in the water. As I watched in fascination, the massive brown creature approached the shark. It made contact with the shark using its upper surface. The shark immediately began convulsing and trembling. It was helplessly drawn into the creature's body. I stood frozen, unable to move. Then the brown creature slowly sank back into the abyss. Just as it had floated up to the surface, it disappeared into the darkness. At that moment, the water temperature began to return to normal. God knows what that thing was, but I have no doubt it came from the primeval muck below countless fathoms. In 1968, a diver from the Chilean hydrographic expedition also described a similar encounter. In 1969, Soviet writer and chemist Mikhail Yemtsev and Yeremy Parnov met with the witness in France. They interviewed him and detailed the process in their book 3 Crossings. However, since the article was written in the first person, I will briefly summarize the key points. That year, a group of 7 of them took a research ship named Stargazer to the waters of Inagua Island in the Bahamas. They were studying the effects of isotopic composition on animal metabolism in different waters. When they dove to a sufficient depth, a leopard shark slowly approached the divers, followed by a hammerhead shark, and what appeared to be a fleeing school of fish. At that moment, something happened. This is how the witness described it. It all happened in a matter of seconds. I didn't even have time to use the intercom to warn the team of the impending danger. I saw that thing. A massive brown object with dark blue edges. It looked like a jellyfish, slowly rising from the depths. It was like a dirty, impenetrable fog that covered all the blue and seemed to extend endlessly, engulfing everything. I feared that I had underestimated its size. Its dimensions clearly exceeded 1 square kilometer. The trembling, chart-like body shimmered with bubbles. It slowly sank into the distant mud. Its edges, resembling the jagged weapon of a giant specter, swayed gently. It rose slowly from the abyss like a ghost, a silent embodiment of terror. I knew what was happening, and I saw everything, but my body, like everything around me, was frozen. I couldn't move. The shark remained there, and the brown mass suddenly stopped. It hovered beneath the shark. Then, it was as if a current struck everything. All the fish bent, their bodies convulsing and trembling as they began to sink slowly. The bubbling mass was like sugar, melting into jelly. Seeing this, the witness was instantly overwhelmed by an indescribable fear. He stated that he couldn't even lift a finger at that moment. All he could see was complete darkness, his heartbeat irregular, his body refusing to obey. He bent over and slowly sank into the abyss. When he woke up in a Moscow hospital, 2 months had passed. During this time, he had been in a coma. Captain Genya told him that Modest, a rescue team member, caught up with him when he had unconsciously descended about 10 meters. At the time, his teeth were clenched tightly on the regulator, and muscle spasms made breathing impossible, including the captain. Those who went to rescue him all saw the massive brown creature. It was carrying the paralyzed fish and slowly sinking into the crevice. When the diver was rescued onto the boat, the captain decided to attack the creature with explosives. However, the attack did not cause significant damage. The tears created by the explosion slowly closed, leaving only dead fish scattered on the water's surface. In 1974, American paranormal investigator Richard Weiner recorded an account in his book The Devil's Triangle. In November 1969, while conducting underwater filming for a marine research project for General Electric, he encountered the same mysterious object, 14 miles south of Bermuda, at a depth of 30 to 40 feet. It was the thing that had puzzled him for years. That day, as dusk approached, the dim light pierced through the water's surface, distorted and eerie. He had just finished filming the motion of a buoy, and used up the last roll of film. At that moment, his safety officer, Pat Portlight, grabbed his shoulder and pointed downward. Immediately, he saw the enormous deep-sea creature. These were Weiner's exact words. "I saw a shocking scene. I couldn't tell how deep it was, nor how large it was. It could have been about 100 feet below us, or maybe 150 feet deep. I could only roughly estimate its size. It might have been 100 feet wide, or maybe 75 feet, but its diameter was definitely not less than 50 feet. It appeared as a perfect deep purple circle, slowly moving towards us. Its edges were pink, and rippled gently, but the water flow did not change. As we started ascending, it also stopped rising, then slowly descended back into the dark depths. We silently watched it until it vanished completely. Time passed, and they were never able to confirm what kind of creature it was. Pat speculated it might have been a giant squid, but it wasn't until one day, when Richard Weiner saw a group of jellyfish at the dock in Majuro, Marshall Islands, that he realized the massive creature he had encountered exhibited behavior identical to that of jellyfish. Later, regarding this incident, he was interviewed by American cryptozoologist Gary Mangiacopra, and he eventually sketched a depiction of the creature. As we moved into the 21st century, Russian journalist and author Vlad Varanov, in his 2010 book, The Secrets of the Four Oceans, included a series of sightings of giant invertebrates, including this one. He mentioned an incident in May 1990. Reports in Russia highlighted massive die-offs of marine animals. Environmentalists attributed these incidents to a concealed submarine accident, or the dumping of chemical agents by some nation's military. Biologists from the Leningrad Meteorological Institute conducted independent examinations of the bodies. Their conclusion was that the marine animals had died from exposure to some biological toxin. Russia, at the time, did not have a chemical industry capable of producing such toxins. Soon after, in 1991 and 1992, similar large-scale fish and marine animal die-offs occurred in various places around the globe, including the Canadian coasts, North Carolina in the United States, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Sea of Japan. Scientists eventually attributed these events to an unknown marine predator. However, due to the possible misdirection of my research into Russian language sources, or the strict standards at the time, I was unable to find related reports or expert papers from that year. If researchers indeed provided such conclusions, given humanity's destructive behavior toward the oceans in recent years, I personally believe that blaming an unknown creature capable of global ecological disruption is hardly convincing. Additionally, Vlad Varanov recorded in his book, A Report from French Media in 2005. The report mentioned a French diver named Henri Astor, who signed a contract with a Thai company and was invited to work in the Gulf of Thailand. On that day, he and his partner descended in a specialized protective submersible to a depth of about 80 meters from the mothership. They stopped descending when they saw a school of large fish. At that moment, they noticed something unusual. In the depths below, a strange, unimaginably large brown mass was slowly rising towards the school of fish. When it reached about 10 to 15 meters from the fish, the behavior of the fish suddenly turned peculiar. Some individuals became rigid, then rolled onto their sides, and slowly sank towards the brown mass. Immediately after, the same fate befell all the surrounding fish. Henry's partner, against his objections, decided to swim closer to investigate, but after 15 minutes, he still had not returned. Henri immediately sounded the alarm. When rescue personnel descended to their location, they found nothing. The massive brown entity had already sunk deep into the ocean. They couldn't even find the diver's body. The above is related to the reported sightings of giant jellyfish. In fact, regarding the current sightings of giant jellyfish, whether the objects seen by witnesses were truly jellyfish, scholars' opinions are divided. Paul Willis, editor of the International Cryptozoology Journal, analyzed the 1953 Christopher Lopp sighting. In an article published in a 1972 issue, he noted that, although the event was dated 1953, the sightings we see today. However, the sightings we have today are condensed versions of Professor Russell's original writings, edited by others. As a result, many details cannot be verified. However, he believed that this event cannot be entirely dismissed as fiction. The creature described by the witness sounded very much like a giant umbrella-shaped octopus living in the deep sea. The aforementioned cryptozoologist Gary Mangiocopra stated clearly in his works that giant jellyfish near Bermuda could possibly exist. He argued that, although the size of organisms is limited by many factors, based on the jellyfish species discovered, it is theoretically possible for larger, undiscovered types of jellyfish to exist. Cryptozoologist Dr. Carl Schucker believes the records indicate that the diver did not observe any tentacle-like features on the creature. Some cnidarians, especially deep-sea species, indeed lack tentacles. The sudden paralysis of the shark could be explained by the venomous nematocysts of a giant jellyfish. He specifically mentioned a similar species, the deep-water jellyfish. This is an extremely rare large jellyfish, belonging to the Cyanidae family. It has been found in the Pacific Ocean, the North Atlantic, and the cold waters surrounding Antarctica. Its umbrella-shaped body is wide and thin. The largest recorded specimen has a diameter of approximately 1 meter. Its surface is covered with numerous nematocysts and cilia. Unlike the commonly seen moon jellyfish, species in the deep-water jellyfish genus lack tentacles. Instead, they generally use their umbrella-shaped bodies to envelop their prey, and then kill it using their nematocysts, These creatures typically inhabit depths of 500 to 1,800 meters in dimly lit mesopelagic waters. Based on their morphology and behavior, the giant jellyfish described by the witnesses is remarkably similar to the deep-water jellyfish, except for its larger size. Speaking of cnidarians, cryptozoologist Professor Chad Arment mentioned in the 2000 North American Cryptozoology Review, a report from an online news group. The author of the article recounted the story of his late friend, George Hale, who worked as an underwater welder for Gulf Oil Company in the 1970s. While working on an oil drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico, he witnessed an indescribable giant invertebrate. Compared to the size of the creature, humans were like ants. It was the first time he saw such a thing, and the last time he felt such fear. He boarded the first returning helicopter and never went near the sea again. Hale described the predator's color and texture as resembling a sea anemone. Its shape was similar to that of a starfish or hydroid. This event depicts yet another unknown giant creature aside from jellyfish, cnidarians. Based on all the known information above, I believe the credibility of the giant jellyfish sightings is open to question. However, the possibility of these creatures existing still remains. Firstly, I find that the sources of all these sightings are not very clear. I couldn't locate any original reports or detailed records of interviews with the witnesses. For instance, the original manuscript from 1953, the missing primary personnel details from the 1968 event, or the Tsimi files mentioned in the 2010 materials. All these events feel more like hearing a legend, stories passed down secondhand from one person to another. Of course, this may be due to my limited access, or historical issues causing a lack of information, but I still feel there is a lack of critical evidence. Now, about the possibility of such creatures existing, I believe it is plausible, because jellyfish as a species have exceptionally strong environmental adaptability. They can be found nearly everywhere, and at all depths of aquatic environments around the world. Moreover, some jellyfish species exhibit extraordinary behaviors. For example, species within the genus Turritopsis can theoretically achieve biological immortality by cycling between the polyp and medusa stages, avoiding external factors that could harm them. This ability makes jellyfish one of the oldest metazoans on Earth. Modern research shows that jellyfish have existed as far back as 700 million years ago, and may have appeared even earlier in ancient times. With such an ancient evolutionary history, astonishing biological traits, and the vast inclusiveness of the ocean, we have reasons to believe that some species of giant jellyfish may inhabit the unexplored depths of the ocean's abyss. Of course, this is just my personal speculation, but I also believe that as human civilization continues to progress, sooner or later, we will overcome the difficulties and risks of deep-sea exploration, and truly uncover the most mysterious parts of our planet. Alright, as always, the unknown will forever outweigh the known. That is the charm of UMA. This is the end of this video. Thank you for watching.